One of the more interesting companies we've seen in the world of video games that obviously had a large impact on physical distribution of video games has, of course, been limited run games. And, it's kind of crazy to think that limited run games is more than likely coming to an end very soon. I think the writing is more on the wall than it ever has been before. And I think, it's just a matter of when it happens, not a matter of if it happens, especially with the announcement of today's news. And when I think of limited run games, like obviously I've had a very interesting relationship with them. They're based in North Carolina, and back in their infancy of both them as a company and this channel as a channel, I actually drove up and went to their studios at the time to check out their operations and met Doug and Josh up there and had a really good time. You could tell there was like a ton of passion going into what they were doing. At that time, they were primarily just doing PlayStation 4 stuff. They didn't have like Nintendo licensing and stuff like that. The Wii U was a thing, so there wasn't a whole bunch of games that people were necessarily clamoring for physical editions of Wii U games. But it was a company that you could tell was rooted in just a passion for physical games. They also had at that time Mighty Rabbit Studios, which was right across the hall from them. And that was their subsidiary company that would develop like brand new stuff. It was a very interesting business model. But like any business, once success starts to come in, things kind of change a little bit. Whether it's because of the money, whether it's because of the optimization, but with growth comes important decision making. And, the limited run games that I went to and visited is obviously a very different company than it stands right now. And there's been lots of drama, there's been lots of controversy, and lots of real problems with some of their stuff. Whether you're talking about stuff like incomplete versions of games on the physical medium, whether you're talking about that 3DO situation where they thought it was smart to do a CDR of the game, just essentially not pressing a disc, but just burning it onto a CDR. Of course, the recent Sonic the Hedgehog situation with the Shadow the Hedgehog statue that people paid a lot of money for that looks like it came fresh off the boat from China. There's been lots of stuff going on with this company, and obviously big changes with the company themselves. Being purchased by Embracer Group obviously changes a lot of things because you go from this kind of homegrown thing to this sort of commercial thing. Now, nobody can deny the impact that limited run games had, because think of how many other physical game, companies are out there now because of the fact that this company came along and did it first. But like I said, the writing is on the wall here. Like, this company is done for. Obviously, Doug had a interesting exit from the company somewhat recently, and now Josh, who is kind of the last, remaining main person, the president of the company, put this tweet out this morning. With 2025 drawing to a close, it feels like the right time to announce that I stepped down as CEO at Limited Run Games back in September. I'm still working there as president until March, but after that, I will be scaling back to redirect my focus to new adventures. And then he goes on to say stuff, it's been my life for 10 years. God, I can't believe it's been like 10 years since they first busted out on the scene. I love what we do. I love the people I get to work with, but I also recognize that Limited Run could benefit from new leadership who will bring in new fresh perspectives and original ideas to drive them beyond. I'll give this tweet a like. You can read the rest of it here up on the screen. But this is not good. This is not what you want to see if you are a fan of limited run games, because obviously you have Embracer Group, who now owns limited run games. Embracer Group is not exactly the most friendly company to work for, it seems like. They will buy up studios and then close subsidiary studios, and people will lose jobs. Working for Embracer Group definitely doesn't seem like the smoothest thing in the world, and I could be completely wrong on that. Maybe their employee morale is very high, but I sincerely doubt it. And with Josh sort of leaving, and look, I'm not going to sit here and like defend everything that Josh and by extension Doug and by extension everything Limited Run Games did. You know, the long turnaround times of stuff, you know, like the insane turnaround times of when you give them money to when you get the product. The whole fact that sometimes products did not match what you thought you were getting, like the Shadow the Hedgehog statue. There was lots of problems with the company, but I think you could say at least they tried to get better with some things. You know, if you're someone who's just newer to Limited Run Games, you used to have like the smallest window. It would be 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. or 5 p.m. Eastern time when you could order stuff. And that was it. There wasn't these open pre-orders and stuff like that. You would have to rush to the website and hope that you were one of the lucky ones. And I missed out on a ton of stuff that I wanted to get because of that system. But they changed that system. They started working with bigger companies. They started working with retro companies. And there's been a lot of good stuff to go along with a lot of bad stuff. But I feel like a lot of that comes from Josh. You know, yes, he likes weird games, and sometimes he releases weird games. Okay, you don't have to buy the shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not buying some of these weird slop games that for some reason he has a very big emotional attachment to. But when you take away kind of the quirkiness of the company and you take away the driving factor, you know, one of the main reasons why this company essentially got to the plateaus that they got to the success that they got to, you know, have a physical store in North Carolina as well, beyond just their publishing stuff, and grew to this massive thing. And you take away that root was the passion. That root was the creativity. Now you're putting it into the hands of essentially suits and stuff like that. And look, I could be completely wrong about this. Maybe they hire someone who's amazing and does the best work ever and stuff like that. But you have to look at the bigger picture. You got to take a step back as well and look at how things have kind of been, not just from a product perspective, but from a company perspective in 2025, because Josh isn't the only person who left Limited Run Games in 2025. Another person who had a certain engine called the Carbon engine also left Limited Run Games in 2025, and now is working with Digital Eclipse. And it's like, you know, you take away the talent, you take away the passion, and what you're left with is kind of a corporate shell. You know, and I get it. I'm not sitting here blaming Josh. Josh probably got an amazing payout, and he could probably, you know, never has to work a normal job again. He could work on passion projects. He can do whatever he wants to do. He wants to go buy a boat or something and go fish, or, you know, buy a RC car and become an RC car champion. Like, he could do that. You know, he could do whatever he wants. So I don't blame him. But I think this is a dark day for Limited Run Games, and hopefully another smaller company that has done physical products, you know, your Strictly Limiteds and all these other companies, Premium Game, all these. There's so many different companies right now, but I do hope that one of these smaller companies can come along and fill that gap and fill that void and kind of become, you know, maybe not number one when it comes to physical products, because obviously Embracer Group, you know, they have their connections and stuff like that, but be like the highest independent tier. You know, be the company that has the passion, that listens to the consumer, that listens to the fan base, because I think those days are very numbered for Limited Run Games. And like I said, I could be completely wrong on this, but I don't think I am. I could sense it in the air with Embracer Group and just how they work, how they operate. I think Limited Run's days are indeed very limited. And, you know, it's crazy to see. It's crazy to see, but, you know, the video game industry is a very crazy place right now. I don't know if you've been paying attention to it, but it's a very volatile situation. So, I don't know, man. Let me know in the comments section down below. What do you think about this? You know, are you surprised that Josh left Limited Run? What do you think how that bodes for the future of the company? Because like I said, dude, like, to me, this is just game over at this point. I wouldn't expect any new announcements coming, bigger announcement. I don't know. Maybe they'll do a little bit to make it seem like everything's okay. I'm sure some business plans, it's not going to be like an immediate thing. I'm sure some deals and contracts are already worked out for upcoming products and stuff like that. But beyond that, I don't know I don't know what's going to happen here. And I don't think it looks good. And as always, be sure to hit that subscribe button if you are new to the channel, and I'll catch you guys on the next video. Oh, Happy New Year as well. I watched the final episode of Stranger Things. It's okay. It was okay. Later.